One of the most famous of these conquistadors was Hernán Cortés. In 1519, Cortés landed on the coast of what is now Mexico and began his march toward the heart of the Aztec Empire. The Aztecs, led by the Emperor Montezuma, initially welcomed the strange visitors, believing that they were gods returning to fulfill a prophecy. However, what followed was a brutal campaign of conquest. Cortés, with the help of indigenous allies who resented Aztec rule, laid siege to the capital city of Tenochtitlan. In 1521, the Aztec Empire fell, and the Spanish established Mexico as a colony. Not long after, Francisco Pizarro, another Spanish conquistador, embarked on his own campaign against the Inca Empire in South America. The Inca, led by Emperor Atahualpa, were overwhelmed by the superior weaponry, horses, and tactics of the Spanish forces. Pizarro captured Atahualpa, and in 1533 he executed the emperor, marking the end of the Inca Empire and the establishment of Spanish rule over Peru. The Spanish conquest of the Americas marked the beginning of European domination over much of the New World. Entire civilizations were wiped out, not just through warfare, but through the spread of diseases like smallpox, which devastated the indigenous populations who had no immunity to these new diseases. Chapter 5. The Rivalries of European Powers. While Spain and Portugal were the first to dominate the seas, other European powers were soon eager to join in the age of exploration. The French, English, and Dutch began to challenge Spanish and Portuguese supremacy, often with competing interests in the Americas, Africa, and Asia. In North America, French explorers like Jacques Cartier and Samuel de Champlain established colonies in what is now Canada, seeking to exploit the fur trade. The English, led by figures like Sir Francis Drake, sought to establish their own colonies along the eastern seaboard of North America, which would eventually lead to the founding of the Jamestown colony in 1607. The English also launched attacks on Spanish treasure fleets, further deepening the rivalry between the two nations. The Dutch, meanwhile, established a global trading empire. The Dutch East India Company, founded in 1602, was one of the most powerful corporations of its time, dominating trade in the East Indies, modern-day Indonesia, and other parts of Southeast Asia. In the Americas, the Dutch established the colony of New Netherland, which would later become New York after the English took control in 1664. This period of intense European rivalry had lasting consequences for global trade, the spread of European culture, and the establishment of new global networks of commerce, communication, and colonial control. It was an era of great wealth, but also of great exploitation and suffering. Chapter 6. The Legacy of the Age of Exploration. The Age of Exploration was a time of tremendous discovery, but it also left a complicated and often painful legacy. The voyages of Columbus, Da Gama, and others led to the establishment of colonial empires that reshaped the world. These empires brought wealth and knowledge to Europe, but also caused immense suffering to indigenous peoples. The forced labor of enslaved Africans, the decimation of indigenous populations through disease, and the destruction of ancient civilizations are dark chapters in the history of this age. However, the age of exploration also led to the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultures. The Columbian Exchange, as it came to be known, brought new crops, animals, and resources to different parts of the world. It is hard to imagine the world today without the impact of the potato, maize, or tomatoes, which were brought from the Americas to Europe, Asia, and Africa. The maps of the world were redrawn, and people began to see themselves as part of a global community, even if that community was often defined by European dominance. New navigational tools, scientific discoveries, and advances in shipbuilding and cartography laid the foundation for the modern world. In the end, the age of exploration did not just reveal new worlds, it reshaped the old ones. It was a time of remarkable courage, unimaginable tragedy, and unparalleled transformation, a turning point in the story of humanity that continues to influence the course of history. The age of exploration may have started with the ambition of finding new trade routes, but it ended up discovering new worlds physically, intellectually, and socially that continue to echo throughout the centuries.